If you focus on your relationship with your children and you do everything you can to make sure that it is as good as it can possibly be, then it doesn't really matter what other parent does on their time. It doesn't really matter if other parent is talking garbage about you on your time or on their time. Why? Because kids aren't stupid and they learn it all and they see it all. And I'm saying this as an attorney. I'm also saying this as a child of divorce who had parents that were in the background chirping in my ear bad stuff. I got to a point where I was like, well, you're the asshole, actually, because you're the one that's telling me all of this nonsense about somebody that I love. So focusing on your relationship that you have with your child will make sure that your bond with your child is strong enough to withstand any of the BS that the other parent is saying if you have one of those really annoying, narcissistic, controlling, crappy co-parents. Welcome to Gavels Down, Voices Up, where we flip the script on conventional legal discussions. I'm Rachel King, here to guide you through the murky waters of family law, estate conflicts, inheritance disputes, all of the dramas. We're not just talking about law, we're talking about how it affects your life, your rights, your future, and your money. From the courtroom to your living room, we bring you insights that matter. Dive into each episode ready to challenge, learn, and grow. Ready to change the dialogue? Let's begin. Gavels down, voices up. Co-parenting with your ex sounds like a nightmare. And actually, sometimes co-parenting with your significant other can be problematic. And now you guys are no longer together. And I have to say, in all of my experience, it's the co-parenting that causes the biggest issues in court. That's whether you're going through a divorce, you're post-divorce, or maybe you never were married and you're just trying to figure out how to raise a child for the first 18 years of their life. So what can you do, if anything? What are some best tips to co-parent for the first 18 years of your child's life? Let's talk about it today. But first, I do want to tell you that 18 years seems like a long time, and especially if you're sucked into the family law court drama over child custody visitation and co-parenting. But I assure you that when you're on the other side of it, the 18 years is going to seem like it flew by. You can head over to my book, Getting Divorced Now What, and it'll talk all about custody visitation, what to do in a divorce, what to look for post-divorce, and really some co-parenting tips and tricks. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek here, but pop over to gettingdivorcednowwhat.com and you can get your copy. If you want an autographed version, I'm giving those out too, but go ahead and send me an email at gettingdivorcednowwhat.com and tell me you want a signed copy and we'll make arrangements. All right, so co-parenting, raising kids. Let's say that of 99% of the families that I worked with in a co-parenting or a divorce or a custody battle, every single person that I represented thought that they were the better parent. And I'll be honest, I think I'm the better parent. If you ask my kid's dad, he'll probably say that he thinks he's the better parent. Now, this doesn't mean that any one of us is wrong or that we're trying to be difficult or narcissistic or controlling or all of the things that people are saying these days. It just means that as humans, we think our way is the best way, and that carries over into co-parenting. But how do you navigate that, and what do you do in the law? The three things that I think work best, though they're the hardest to kind of wrap your head around when you're co-parenting, is first, that other parent gets to do it their way. You might hate their way. You might think that your way is better. You might think that they're not fully realizing the potential of the relationship that they have with their children or appreciating that they're only going to be young for a little amount of time. You could have very strong opinions on what other parent is doing, but those opinions are yours and they don't come into play in the co-parenting situation. You don't bring them up in court because really it doesn't matter. You get to raise your kids how you want on your time, and other parent gets to do it on their time. Now, of course, if there's abuse or there's neglect or there's something really, really detrimental, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all of the rest of us. And I will tell you that most people are reasonable parents. Most people are parents that are going to have the court grant them joint legal, joint physical, and as much time as they want with their kids. That's what we're talking about. And the way we know that, and the way you can wrap your head around it, is one, by realizing that what other parent does on their time is not your business. And what you do on your time is not their business. You guys are not required to give a play-by-play itinerary to the other parent. You're not required to let them talk to your children every single day for as long as they want when you have your kids. And you're not required to do the same on their time. You both are allowed to have your kids and raise them how you want when they are in your care. And understanding that can really help die down some of the tension that arises in the co-parenting space. Just a moment for a quick break. Are you struggling with the legal and emotional tolls of divorce? Let me, Rachel King, help guide you. Head over to gettingdivorcednowwhat.com/free chapter for your copy of the first chapter of my new book, Getting Divorced Now What. Learn tips to navigate your divorce in the most successful way possible. The full book is coming out January 15th, and you can pre-order yours now. Now let's get back to the show. Number 2, focus on your relationship with your child. This is hard, especially if you're going from a relationship to a non-relationship with other parents, because you've got all of the dynamic of the breakdown of the relationship and now learning how to coexist and co-parent in this separate arena. But if you focus on your relationship with your children and you do everything you can to make sure that it is as good as it can possibly be, then it doesn't really matter what other parent does on their time. It doesn't really matter if other parent is talking garbage about you on your time or on their time. Why? Because kids aren't stupid, and they learn it all and they see it all. And I'm saying this as an attorney. I'm also saying this as a child of divorce who had parents that were in the background chirping in my ear bad stuff. I got to a point where I was like, well, you're the asshole, actually, because you're the one that's telling me all of this nonsense about somebody that I love. So focusing on your relationship that you have with your child will make sure that your bond with your child is strong enough to withstand any of the BS that the other parent is saying if you have one of those really annoying, narcissistic, controlling, crappy co-parents. The other thing that it does is, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, your kids are only going to be children for a very short period of time. And when they're 6 months old or 2.5 or my goodness, 15, and you're going through all of the trials and tribulations at every phase of child rearing, and you're pulling your hair out and you're like, when the hell is this going to be done? I can't stand this person. I want them out of my house, but then I feel guilty because I want them out of my house. And then before you know it, they're going to be 18 years old and they're going to be out of their house, and nothing you say is going to matter, and nothing that other parents says is going to matter. And a court's not going to be able to enforce a custody or visitation order over an adult, and your child is an adult. And at that point right there is where all of the work that you did co-parenting, focusing only on your relationship between you and your child, really pays off. Because when your child is an adult, they get to decide who's going to be in their life and how. And if you've focused on having a strong, loving, very supportive relationship with your child, then your child is going to choose you when they have an opportunity through adulthood. So be patient, focus on your relationship with your child. Don't focus on the relationship that other parent has with your child. It's not your business. And number 3, maybe the hardest, is to keep it very simple. If you were in the military, maybe you've heard of the KISS method. I don't really like the word stupid at the end of it. My kids know I can't stand the word stupid. So we're just going to say keep it very simple and change the acronym a little bit. You don't need to respond to every comment. You don't need to have the last word. You don't need to go down the rabbit hole and you don't need to justify your actions. You need to keep your communication simple and communicate with the other parent. Where are your kids? Is there something that you would want to know about? If it's something that you would want to know about, tell them. But keep it simple, keep it in writing, keep it in text, keep it in Talking Parents, Family Wizard, email, whatever your written form of communication is, do that. And then put boundaries in place for yourself because obviously, especially maybe if you're in a high conflict co-parenting situation, you cannot expect the other parent to comply with your boundaries, but you can. So if your boundary is, you know what, I'm not going to check my phone after 8 p.m., then just don't check your phone. But you have to maintain your own boundary. You're not going to answer the phone unless it's an emergency. If you put boundaries in place that you can maintain, that specifically address the communication with other parent regarding custody, then you will keep your co-parenting relationship as simple as possible and on track. Some other good tips for boundaries are to only talk about the kids. Yeah, it can be really hard because we know that you guys know how to push each other's buttons. But when that happens, simply end the phone call if it's a phone call, or don't respond to the message. If it's a long message that includes one thing about the doctor's appointments and then a whole slew about what a horrible person you are, or how dare you made these decisions, or you're not communicating or co-parenting, or whatever the allegations are, only address the part that you have to address. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to go down the rabbit hole. And if you do these three things, whether you are in a high conflict co-parenting situation, whether you are going through the divorce, figuring out child custody and visitation, or maybe you're just making it through co-parenting and need some tips and tricks to keep it simple because we are human and we have emotion. These three things will help you through your child custody and visitation co-parenting situation until your kids age up, maybe even after. If you want more of this, again, head over to my book, shoot me a message, and we'll figure out how to get you an autographed copy. But I talk all about co-parenting and getting divorced. Now what? Remember, the three things? Well, you're going to have to go back and re-listen to this or read my book if you want more. Until next time, here is to peace, calm, and my gosh, raising our children to be functional, successful, self-supporting, and law-abiding citizens, right? That wraps up another episode of Gavels Down, Voices Up. If you found value in our discussion today, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs these insights. Your engagement helps us grow and impact more lives. I'm Rachel King, thanking you for listening and reminding you to speak up because every voice deserves to be heard.